The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18 plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Well. For those of you that are joining us, we just finished a great interview, a great conversation with the NSA president, Anthony Peña, and Pedro Goico from the National Supermarkets Association. And as promised, now we have our distinguished New York City Comptroller, Mark Levine. Mark, I remember you before you were in politics, right? And here you are, and I'm happy for you. And we're here to have a conversation.
Fernando, I'm so thrilled to be here, buddy. We go way back, and happy to have this conversation with you, me, and just a few million listeners out there.
Absolutely. Mark, what does the city comptroller do?
Chief Financial Officer of New York City. We are most known for overseeing the pension funds. So your listeners who work for the city or transit or retirees, my job is to safeguard their pensions. That's really job number one. We have very significant power over city government. We have audit, oversight, investigation power over every branch of city government. And we do many other things. We approve the contracts. We issue the debt, the bonds. We enforce wage laws. If people sue the city, we manage the claims process. So it's really an extensive operation. It touches every aspect of the budget, the economy, how government functions. And I got to say, almost 4 months in, I'm really loving it so far.
Great. Well, you're looking at a lot of numbers, I see, right? You're looking at a lot of numbers. What have you found so far? What's been your most exciting moment sitting as the comptroller of New York City?
Fernando, do you know how big our pension funds are?
No, I have no idea. I believe
Take a guess.
It's in the billions.
It is in the billions.
It's in the billions.
$320 billion.
Wow.
We own a major piece of the American economy. And that gives me a big role in managing that money to protect the funds for the pensions and also doing right by New York. And we're going to do something really big. We're going to invest more of that pension money in the 5 boroughs of New York City to do economic development projects in the city to help get us growing in here, and especially to build more housing and more affordable housing right in the 5 boroughs.
I'm happy to hear that, Mark, because affordability is what it's all about. But it's affordability with common sense, with intelligence, right?
Yeah.
There are certain things that are done that don't make sense, and I guess that's what you police. Am I correct?
What?
You police things that don't make sense.
Yeah, that's right.
Spending that doesn't make sense.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So you do have the power to stop bad spending.
Absolutely. We have through audit and other powers, totally.
Okay. So we have a situation here where our mayor is well-intended. And by the way, if I met him, I'd like him because he's got a great smile. He speaks well. But I'm concerned. His lack of experience and his advisors are advising him to compete against the small business people, in New York City. And I know that promises are made during campaigns and promises should be kept. But they need to be kept the right way, not the wrong way. Okay. What do you think, and will you support the mayor spending $70 to $100 million a year to set up 5 supermarkets that will only serve that community, not New York City as a whole?
Yeah, well, look, first on the positive side, he's right. We have a problem with affordability.
Yes, we all agree with that.
Of everything in the city. Mm-hmm. Housing, transportation, and yes, food is part of that. And we also have a problem at La Marqueta at East Harlem, which he's identified as his first location. I'm sure you know this facility very well. It's been struggling for decades. So I'm all for anything to revitalize La Marqueta. Obviously, as comptroller, I have to ask whether we're spending money wisely. And also I have to ask, what else could we use that money for? And so I'll be looking at those questions. And if we're going to invest money in an affordability of food, could we do something like a voucher program, like supplementing SNAP, that could be spent in local stores? I'll be looking at all those questions. I'll be keeping an eye on all the spending on this. Again, while conceding that we've got to do something about food affordability.
Yeah, no question about it. I believe that food affordability should be addressed. But I also think that the 600 supermarkets in New York City, in the poorest communities of New York City, have been serving those communities for many years, and people are used to going there. Don't you think it would be better to take that $100 million a year and say, you know what, we're going to spread this into the 600 or 300 or 200 supermarkets where people can actually go to without getting into fights, without having to wait on a huge line, without having to suffer in the winter and the summer trying to get into that one location where they can go anywhere. And just, as you said, add it to a SNAP, add it to an OTC, add it to whatever. Don't you think that that would be fulfilling a promise and at the same time helping all New Yorkers that need affordable food?
Well, look, you know what Section 8 is, right? It's a housing voucher from the federal government. Mm-hmm. New York City has its own version of that. It's called City FEPS. There's some challenges there because it's growing very fast. But it's a great idea, right? You're giving people who are homeless a voucher to rent an apartment. Maybe we could do something like that with food, where it's a supplement, it's our own version of SNAP, and it could help people only spent in the 5 boroughs, but it would help bodegas and supermarkets. Something I'd love to look into.
That would be really nice because right now, all bodega owners, there are 25,000 bodegas in New York. Wow. There are 600 huge supermarkets, probably closer to 1,000. And they're all nervous. Not nervous because 5 stores are going to hurt them, but nervous because of the stigma that the mayor has put on them. For example, he says, oh, you go to bodegas to buy lotto, cigarettes, and alcohol. That's not why people go to bodegas. Bodegas make the best. You grew up in Washington Heights. You've eaten those sandwiches, those breakfast. They make the best breakfast. They sell food. You know, they sell all kinds of things that people in the community need. Okay. And of course, they have, like everyone else, habits to smoke, drink, and play lotto because they want, you know, hopefully one day they'll hit it, right? But it's put a bad stigma on those businesses, and they're hurting by that. So 5 stores isn't going to really make a difference, and you have to really acknowledge that. And the visual of people, you know, when they start giving cheese and food, I remember when I was a kid, welfare lines used to be huge, right? People waiting online, and then when you get to the line, to your turn, the cheese finished, the milk finished, and now riots and fights and all of these things happen, right? As comptroller, we ask you as New Yorkers, look into this. You're close to the mayor. Advise him. You know, bring some sense to City Hall in this regard. Okay. But affordability is something that is definitely something that we need.
Yes.
Yeah. How often, have you, rejected or delayed any contracts if you have so far?
We're brand new at that and we haven't yet, but I wouldn't hesitate to. So we review every single contract. My predecessors have all rejected contracts at various points. If there's a whiff of corruption, we don't certify it. We contract out $46 billion a year. The numbers are astounding. And we want to make sure these are bid out fairly. We also want to make sure that MWBEs, minority and women businesses, get their fair share. My office did an audit that we released in January of the city's MWB program. Fernando, the numbers are really low.
It's a disaster.
Yes, only about 5 or 6% of the dollars we contract out in the data we analyzed are going to minority and women-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And we've got to do much, much better in this incredibly diverse city. We're also trying to make sure that the money we invest in our pension fund, that more of it goes to minority and women-owned fund managers. This is another way to ensure that we have true equity in our economic development.
You know, Mark, it's refreshing to see a guy like you. You know, you've come up the ranks quietly, never made much noise about anything. Council member, borough president, now city council. I see you at some point, mayor of New York City.
Don't get me into trouble, man.
Listen, it's not about getting you into trouble. It's about you preparing, okay, for what's down the road. That's usually what happens, right? And I remember many years ago, when we both I had black hair, you had a nice a lot more hair. and you used to say, I may consider one day maybe getting into the city council. But here you are. And we're very proud of you, by the way. And for people that don't know, Mark speaks fluent Spanish.
Hablamos español, sí.
No, ese tipo habla más español que yo. Mark, what happens when City Hall ignores your audits? What can you do if they ignore an audit that you bring up to them?
Look, we have significant legal power. I don't think people even realize how much power, up to and including a subpoena if we need to, if we're not getting adequate data. So you really can't say no to the Comptroller when the Comptroller is issuing an audit. We also have the power to make criminal referrals. So if we detect that there has been actually illegal activity, we'll bring in the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District. And I wouldn't hesitate to do that. I want to emphasize that we have no whiff of that in my tenure so far, but, and I hope never to, but we have real power to enforce, our accounting rules, enforce the laws against corruption, and to execute our audits as need be.
Can you stop the mayor on overspending?
Look, the budget is a document approved by the mayor and the city council, but the Comptroller has real powers there to issue its own analysis. And I said very clearly in January that we have a major gap in the budget, a $12 billion gap at that time. Wall Street's done very well and has come down. And I said this very simple. The economy is doing well. Tax receipts are up, but we are spending more than we are bringing in. And this has been brewing for several years, and it's not sustainable. We have got to align our budget. We have a huge gap. There's no excuse for having a budget gap when the economy is strong. What's going to happen in a recession? By the way, we've been drawing down our reserves as well. We have very low reserves, and the current proposal will draw them down further. So I am a voice for responsible budget management. I think that we need to bend the curve on some of this spending. I talked about this housing voucher program we have. It's called CityFEPS. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Do you know that it's growing, Fernando, by 4% a month? 4% a month.
Serious?
Growing.
Wow.
So compounding, it's doubling every year and a half. It's going to hit $2.7 billion next year, more than the entire budget for our housing department, HPD. It's not sustainable. So you look at our schools budget, our student enrollment is down. How many kids are in the public schools?
I don't know, 1,000, 100,000?
Well, traditionally we had 1.1 million.
Okay.
We're down now to 800,000 and change. We lost 200,000 kids. Yet the school budget has gone up every single year. We have 200 schools in New York City, Fernando, where there's less than 200 kids.
I know that there's a lot of waste at that Board of Ed. There's a ton of waste there, and I'm sure you're going to have a field day there when you audit them.
We have a lot to look at there,
yes.
The contracting and much more. There's definitely money that can be saved.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, it's so refreshing to hear that someone is going to look into all these things. Do you believe in socialism, Mark?
It hasn't worked too well around the world. Capitalism is not perfect, but it is an engine for economic opportunity. And what we need to do is put guardrails in to protect people. We need to invest in opportunity for everyone, no matter their income. But New York City is successful economically in part because we have the financial industry here and we have Wall Street here, which is propping up our budget. And we need to be very careful that we don't lose that, because all of us will suffer.
You know, it's great that, our public is hearing it. Guys, we're here speaking to Mark Levine, our New York City Comptroller. He's educating us on many different issues, what the Comptroller can and can't do or will not do. We're talking about his ideology, about socialism and all of these things. Mark, you said something so important. We had a $12 billion deficit.
Yep.
Wall Street, the rich, right? Because we're talking about the rich now, have lowered that deficit. So why so much antagonizing the rich when the rich are helping the city stay afloat?
Yeah.
Why?
We had the best Wall Street bonus season in New York City history, and it's why we were able to close the gap. In part, we still have a gap remaining, but it's more manageable than it was. And look, I believe everyone has to pay their fair share. I believe in progressive taxation. But if the financial industry leaves, we are in very deep trouble here.
Mark, I'm a middle class person. I pay 7-digit taxes every year. Okay. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a gazillionaire. No. Okay. I am a middle class, wealthy millionaire. Okay. I don't want to be taxed any more than what I am. You know, my taxes are very high in the 7 digits. Okay. Very high. Why would I want to pay more to give people that don't want to work, that don't want to go out and find a job or make a living, right? Why should you take from me to give to them when I work 15 hours a day, every day since I'm 17 years old? You know, we need to respect capitalism, because capitalism is why people come here to the United States, right? Because they want to become someone. That's why my parents immigrated here in 1950. My biggest asset is being in the United States of America. I give everything up, never to have to leave the United States of America. Then there are those that understand what socialist white people come here and they want to take them back in time. You know, why is that?
Well, first of all, man, I really respect what you've built. Tout à fait how. What you have worked for, you've earned over decades. And I congratulate you on your great success. And I want New Yorkers to be successful. And I want you to stay here. And I want New Yorkers who are doing well to stay here. This has to be a city where people want to invest, where they want to start businesses, where they want to grow businesses. That's how we solve the job problem that we have right now. Job creation, by the way, in New York has come to a halt. Don't know if you know this, Fernando.
Of course I do. That was the next topic. Go. Yeah. You're good. You're on a roll. Keep going.
Look, we are dead flat on jobs in New York, with one exception: home health care aides, which pays not much better than minimum wage. That cannot be our economic development strategy. Outside of that category of jobs, we are flat. And if you talk to young people in their 20s, they'll tell you, even with a good college degree, it's very, very hard to get into the workforce. So we have got to get back to job growth in New York for the benefit of young people, for diverse New Yorkers. This has to be a place where people want to grow. Talk to the financial firms right now. What they'll tell you is, JP Morgan, for example, they built an incredible tower on Park Avenue. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes.
JP Morgan, Fernando, has more employees now in the state of Texas than it has in New York. The growth is happening elsewhere for many different financial firms. I want to bring that growth back to New York. That'll be great for employment. It'll be great for our tax base. And it's a way to make New York City more dynamic and successful.
You see, I wish that you could take your brain and put it inside Mandami's head with his smile and his love for speaking. I think that he would be an amazing mayor. Listen, the backbone of this city, we all know, are your small businesses. Yes. You know, the JP Morgans, if they move, they take everything. You know, you've got to get rid of a lot of small businesses, thousands of, but we've had over 50,000 small businesses leave New York. Not go out of business, but leave New York, right? A lot of restaurants have shut down in New York. Yeah. They can't support the increase, the minimum wages. Everyone should get paid more. I am for it. But you know what? If you want to keep these businesses here, subsidize some of their salaries. If you're a small business that employs less than 100 people, throw in $3 an hour if you want to pay. If you want as a government to pay people more, pay them more. But if you go and you force a small business supermarket, he's going to lay off 10 people. Now you have to pay unemployment. You've got to support them. You've got to give them all kinds of benefits. SNAP. I always believe, Mark, that this country gives us more than enough. Okay? SNAP, OTC, free education, free healthcare, OTC, WIC program, food coupons, you name it. This country gives it to you if you can't afford certain things. The program that you're talking about for city house, city FEPs, right?
Yeah.
And Section 8. How much more can you give people? When you give, no one ever gave me anything, because if they did, maybe I'd be one of them, right? I was hungry. I worked hard every day to succeed. We need a comptroller like you now to basically use your common sense and go and drive it to the people.
Look,
let the people know.
We got to. It's very tough for small business now. The costs of everything are getting very, very difficult. It's rent, it's insurance, it's property tax, and yes, labor as well is a challenge. And the city is often an obstacle, not an ally, with the paperwork and the licenses and the fines.
Mark, hold your thought because we're coming right back.
Okay,
we have a lot of sponsors that we've got to, put on air right now. Take it away, Kevin. Well, Mark, for those of you that are joining us now, I'm here with our New York City Comptroller, Mark Levine, who has educated us on what the New York City Comptroller's Office does, what they enforce, what they do, what they don't do. I mean, we've spoken about everything here. So if you're joining us now, we have another 5 minutes with Mark Levine. And I'm very impressed with the way you think. I'm very impressed, and I think that all New Yorkers should know what your beliefs are, because we don't understand it yet. We know that you just took over the office. We know that there are many city agencies that you're going to be looking at and looking into their spending, especially those that have these huge billion-dollar budgets, $5 billion budgets, right? You're going to see how they're spending their money, because there's a lot of waste in government.
Yes.
Mark, what's going to be your focus in the next 3 or 4, 6 months or through the rest of the year?
We got a lot coming out. We're going to be focusing on the housing challenge. Fernando, if you want to build housing in New York and you have everything set, you got the property, you got the financing, you got the developer, you got the zoning, you got to wait a year and a half for HPD to approve the paperwork. Why couldn't that be done in a day and a half?
Why don't you privatize HPD?
I don't know.
If you privatize some of these agencies, you're going to see production. You're going to see people working. They don't work when they're getting a guaranteed paycheck and no one's looking at their production.
They're good people at HPD, but they're using
a year and a half to make to.
Yeah, look, they're using outdated computer systems that need to be modernized. This would all be done probably with modern technology. You want to build something, you want to get a permit from Department of Buildings, you got to hire an expediter to walk your paperwork around. I mean, the fact that you need to pay money to someone just to handle the paperwork is outrageous. Even the city, Fernando, when it does its own construction projects, has to hire expediters to get its own paperwork through DOB. So I'm going to aim the audit tool at these kind of bureaucratic obstacles. I want to make it easier to build in New York. I want to make it faster and more affordable to build. Right now, the average cost of an apartment to construction? We're seeing affordable apartments that are costing $850,000 each. You could build a mansion in some parts of the country for that.
Yeah, listen, the spending is out of control. Government doesn't belong in business. I say, look at these agencies and see what they're spending, and get McKinsey or Alex and Partners to come in and do an analysis and figure out, if we privatize this piece of government, what more production and how much less will it cost us, right? Because time is money. The longer you wait, the less money you're going to make. If it takes me 2 years to start building something, that means I'm not paying you anything for another 4 years until, the project is finished. But all I tell you, Mark, is have fun with what you do. Surround yourself with people that have common sense, and call the mayor once in a while. Meet with the mayor once in a while.
We do talk regularly.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. I offer my unfiltered advice. And so does he.
Good. Listen, the bottom line is we need to fix the city. You are the money guy. You're the guy that's going to approve or disapprove any contracts. You're going to look at how the city is spending money. First thing I would ask you to do is look at these $30 million that he's putting in one supermarket, when the supermarket experts were sitting where you're sitting, and they said they can build 30 supermarkets with $30 million. Okay. Wow. And they're in the business. Wow. So how do you justify one supermarket, 30 million, or a spend of 70 to 100 million a year? Okay. I think that you should crack that nut, because if you do, New Yorkers are going to see that someone is thinking about New Yorkers, not so much about a small community, in El Barrio, right? In East Harlem. Yeah. Mark, we have a few more minutes. I need for you to deliver whatever message you want to deliver right now. Deliver it.
Look, this has been a rough 5 or 6 years since COVID, but New York City is coming back in many ways. we just can't take it for granted. We need to make sure the city is still growing, that this is a place that people want to live and visit and work and invest. And when we do that, we'll have an economy and a budget strong enough to help people in need, to have well-funded programs after school, in the parks, in the hospitals, in our public colleges. This is what I'm fighting for. I want the economy to be strong so it generates revenue to fund great programs. And I'm going to use my power as comptroller to ensure they're running well, that we're not wasting spending, that there's no fraud, that the taxpayers get value for what we're spending, and that New Yorkers get the best possible services. This is my promise to you, Fernando, and your listeners.
I have two more questions for you very quickly.
Yes.
Do you believe in capitalism? Not do you believe, do you respect capitalism?
Yes, I do. It's the system that has created the most uplift in well-being.
You heard it here on
history.
WABC. He does respect capitalism, okay? So, Mark, are you going to run for mayor of New York City?
I'm going to be a great comptroller, and then
I knew that was
we'll take it from there.
I knew that. I mean, when you're a great politician, those are the answers that you get. But listen, you didn't evade any of my questions. There were no excuses. And that's what this program is about. It's called No Excuses with Fernando Mateo. Thank you very much. Gracias a ti, gracias a ti, y gracias a mi audiencia. Un aplauso. Kevin, take it away.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.